For the first time in 3 seasons, Queen's Park Rangers are through to the third round of the Carabao Cup thanks to a 4-1 penalty shootout win at home to Luton Town following a 1-1 draw in regular time. The Hatters may have dominated the efforts at goal, but Martí Cifuentes' blend of first teamers, youth and new signings defended their box valiantly throughout the match. And there were some great showings here from Morrison, Santos, Powell and Lloyd, but deserving of the highest amount of praise is the superb Joe Walsh, whose multiple instinct saves, including the first of Luton's penalties, almost single-handedly placed our name in the hat for round 3. As usual in this video, I'm going to break down our performance, so if you enjoy this match reaction, then make sure you like and subscribe, and if you want to become a member and support the channel further for £1.99 a month, you can do so by clicking the link in the description below. After first round eliminations to Norwich and Charlton in the past 2 seasons, it felt something of a novelty for QPR to have progressed into the second round of the League Cup this year after escaping Cambridge by the skin of our teeth. But if I'm being totally honest here, that excitement was slightly tempered by not only drawing a team from the same league as us, but one that we were due to play in that very league away from home just 3 days later. That made me want us to progress through this round just that bit more in hope of a juicier tie in 2 weeks' time. Luton Town have, of course, not exactly got off to an ideal start on their return back to the Championship so far, with a loss to Burnley, draw away at Portsmouth and a loss away at Preston last weekend. So that of course meant we looked set to bear the brunt of their frustrations on Tuesday night, with Rob Edwards naming 7 first teamers, including a strike partnership that scored 30 goals between them the last time they were in the same league as us. A bit heavy-handed if you ask me. QPR on the other hand were considerably more rotated, with 7 changes to the side that drew with Plymouth on Saturday. Joe Walsh came in once again at the back, as did Liam Morrison, this time to the left-hand side of Cook. A new centre midfield pairing of Colback and Varane formed our centre, with Dixon Bonner given a second opportunity in the 10 in front of them, while not a right winger, Haverton Santos and Jean Seller were our final 2 changes in the front 3. And the first half began with all the trademarks of a quintessential QPR Cup tie. Luton mostly on the ball, Rangers making you wince with an incredibly casual game of Pong in our own box, and Jack Colback showing little to no remorse for his Sheffield United dismissal by throwing himself into tackles and kicking the ball away when the ref pulled him up for it. For the 4th time in 5 matches this season though, QPR struck early. Dixon Bonner, driving through the middle, picked out Seller on the edge of the box, and after holding the ball up well, the Slovenian returned the favour. Elijah's shot looked much too weak to cause any danger, but Kaminsky inexplicably fumbled it, and Haverton Santos was there to follow it in for 1-0. It was pretty fortunate really, much like Smith's at Cambridge, but you have to be there to take that chance, and that's exactly what Santos did. The involvement of these 3 QPR players in this opening goal almost perfectly summed up each of their performances in the match as a whole. Dixon Bonner had the eye for the initial pass, but he looked nervous and unwilling to take a risk during the rest of the game, often opting for the safe option when he had time and space ahead of him to drive into. That charge through the middle for the opening goal was pretty much the only time it happened. Sellers' hold-up play for the goal, while nothing particularly eye-catching, was symbolic of a forward that was much more involved in general play this time round, creating space for others. It was very reassuring to see after he struggled in the lone 9 against West Brom on his league debut. And Santos, ready to pounce for that finish, was pressing and hassling throughout the match, stealing the ball on multiple occasions even once he was later shifted back into his natural right back role. His boundless energy was exceptional, and I'd really like to see him get some league minutes soon. Now after we went 1 up, Luton of course shifted up a gear. Doherty bombing up our right hand side became a regular issue with his dangerous balls into the box, and both he and Carlton Morris forced the first of a number of fantastic saves from Joe Walsh. And so of course 5 minutes after we took the lead, Luton found their leveller. Morris nodded Doughty's corner out to Nelson on the edge of the box, who hit a deliciously sweet half volley that glided into the left hand side netting in slow motion, because apparently the loft is now reserved exclusively for opposition worldies. It was a fantastic goal, and while I'm sure some might argue he should have been marked, there was really nothing anyone could do about that. The Luton pressure continued throughout the rest of the half, and we struggled to create again, largely because of the same issue we've seen so far this season. Our centre of midfield isn't quite functioning. Colback looked good in more advanced positions, but often left Varane exposed, who while regularly involved in the middle with the most duels won of any player on the pitch, is still clearly getting to grips with a faster pace of play and having less time on the ball than he's used to. He's going to take a lot of time and patience. But as with most of my match reports so far this season, the midfield being the issue created the same problems. It forces us to play down the wings, and whilst both Saito and Santos produce some tidy moments, it can make us very easy to defend against. With all of that said, wonder goal aside, we defended our box excellently throughout this half and the match as a whole. Powell put in his best display so far, and Morrison massively impressed me again, even if he'd looked a touch less comfortable to the left of Cook rather than on the right of Jake Clark-Salter, but presumably that was a test in case Jake does go before the end of this weekend. There were some tense moments in the remainder of this half, not least when Santos headed out for a corner inches wide of his own goal to stop Morris from sweeping in at the back post, but we went into the break level. Clark-Salter replaced Cook at half-time, presumably to save him for Friday, allowing Morrison to shift back to that right-hand side, and the second half initially continued in a similar fashion. Luton kept on knocking, but QPR stayed resolute. Walsh pulled off his most impressive save yet on 56 minutes, parrying Morris's header at the last second with his vision blocked by virtually every outfield player. Marty's next subs on the hour, Lloyd for Dunn and Smith for Saito, with Santos now dropping back to right back, were very well timed, because while we were defending well, we did need something to help reduce that pressure and push Luton up the pitch. Both substitutions did exactly that, and we started to look like a much more complete team. Smith's delivery was welcomed with an initially inconspicuous ball 5 minutes later, resulting in an awkward drop in the box that nearly gave Lloyd the chance to poke in our second. And Lloyd himself made another very strong case for his continued first team involvement. Every time he got on the ball, he ran at Luton. At first, all they could do was foul him, meaning we won more free kicks and had time to breathe. But as time went on, he grew in confidence, stayed on his feet, and Walters, already on a yellow, was too cautious to get stuck into him, giving him chances to drive into the box and set up Powell for crosses. Our next two subs, Dembele for Dixon Bonner and Madsen for Colback, again almost immediately threatened to take us up another level. Dembele's impact once again was instant, dropping deep to get onto the ball, switching play and driving forward. He demanded the ball back straight after, took the piss out of Morris and saw that he got a yellow card for good measure. Quite simply, he did everything that Dixon Bonner did not do in that number 10 role. In fairness, he didn't quite hit that dizzying height again for the remainder of his time on the pitch, but I can't remember seeing the last time I've seen such an explosive player at Loftus Road. There were chances for both sides as the clock ran down, Woodrow trying to wrap one into the corner, Nelson flashing one across goal, and Madsen spurning Lloyd's T-ball in the box with the final kick of the 90, but it was fairly obvious in that final 10 minutes where we were headed. Now, I can't think of higher praise to give a goalkeeper than to say that going into these penalties, I was absolutely certain that Joe Walsh would save at least one, and that would give us a chance in this shootout. Seller kicked off proceedings first, coolly slotting the ball into the bottom left, before Walsh made a fantastic diving save into the opposite corner to deny Woodrow. Dembele was up next, and while I'd expected some sort of Panenka, he kept it simple with another strong hit into the bottom left. Doughty found the right side netting to pull one back, only for Jake Clark-Salter to bury our third into the top left straight after. Chong, to a certain chorus about his haircut, had Walsh beat with him diving to the left, but the crossbar was our friend, setting up Kenneth Powell to beat the keeper with our only penalty to the right and send us into the third round of the Carabao Cup. There is so many positives to take from this one. There were some problems, sure, but there were some really strong individual performances here against an almost full strength side that have just come down from the Prem. That's invaluable experience for some of our rotational players, and we've managed to keep a good amount of fresh legs ready for Friday night, where we can hopefully come away from Luton with our first 3 points in the league before we head into the international break. Anyway, that's all from me. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about yesterday's performance. If you've enjoyed this match reaction and you want to see more content from me, make sure you like the video and hit subscribe, and I'll be back tomorrow with my Luton Town League preview with the We Are Luton Town podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers!